our Almighty God, Creator of heaven and earth, Father and lover of our soul, you sit on your throne of mercy and rule with your love and faithfulness. You are full of grace. We acknowledge your presence in our lives. Nothing is hidden in your eyes, even our challenges and struggles in life. We come to you with faith. We ask not only for our daily spiritual bread, but to seek your forgiveness and undeserving favor to heal our land, our family members, our friends and neighbors, even our enemies with COVID-19 and other diseases. Holy Spirit, help us to deepen our faith and see the opportunity to believe, obey, and worship. As we face this pandemic, you are Lord and God. Encourage us and change our hearts, not to fear, but to be full of hope and find ourselves praying and meditating your word. We believe no works of the enemy prosper to your children. Abba, Father, we believe that your Son Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior. He is the truth and our salvation. Hear our prayers, O Lord, and most of all, not our will, but thy will be done. We pray this in Jesus' name, the name above all names, who was and is to come. Amen.
Naghahatid saya sa mga Pinoy, mga kanta at programang Tatak Pinoy. Napapanood at napapakinggan kahit saan ka man. Streaming worldwide. In South Manila, this is V81 Radio.
Malayo ka man sa iyong pamilya, dito ay hindi ka nag-iisa. Tiyak ito'y iyong hahanap-hanapin, dahil ito ang nagpapasaya sa atin. Kahit nasaan ka man, ito'y mapapakinggan. V81 Radio, V81 Radio. Ito ang radio mo, ito ang radio ko. V81 Radio, V81 Radio. Dahil mahal namin kayo. V81 Radio, V81 Radio.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program anchors and producers and do not necessarily reflect the policies and position of this station. Discover the best kept secrets in metaphysics, law of attraction, science, and spirituality, and listen to practical mystics from around the world. Let's open Pandora's box with Reverend Reg Stan, your metaphysical minister, here in Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, Manila.
Satnam, everyone. I am Reverend Reg, and I'm here again for another episode of Practical Magic, where we talk about the practical use of metaphysics or mysticism. I know that a lot of our viewers are actually getting more acquainted about the power of the law of attraction. And this is the show actually that discusses the how to part of it. How do you bring your ideas into direct experiences for yourself or for the benefit of other people that you're actually working with? So today we're talking about balancing love and practical matters because it's the month of love for February, but at the same time, we know that as amazing as love sounds, whether it's romantic or love for your family, we also know that we also have to balance it with practical matters. And today, I'm so excited because I have two of my colleagues from the International Metaphysical Ministry, and both of them are actually into practical metaphysics. So we're going to talk about what is it in the spiritual use of your imagination, your emotion, your programming, and your cultural upbringing that can actually help you expand and grow despite of the scarcity energy that's been being broadcast very frequently now. So it's something that you can actually have a lot of value if you just take notes, or you can ask questions later if you like. So tune in, and let me start with our first guest because I've had her several times on the show, and she's actually someone who's also in business. So Reverend Tina Brinkley Potts is a business strategist, online marketing trainer, and success coach. She helps professionals and small business owners utilize strategy and technology to grow their business and careers to expert status. Tina's clients range from retired professional athletes to traditional business owners, and her clients from over 25 countries access and apply Tina's online trainings and strategy sessions. Her expertise include teaching entrepreneurs how to connect all the dots with online marketing, social media, and automation, utilizing the gold mine, which is you. She will help you hone your storehouse of knowledge, education, and experience so that you can chart your path to the dollar amount you wish to reach. Her philosophy of mastery is when theory and experience intertwine, resulting in purposeful action. As a result of applying this theory in your business, her clients enjoy enhanced freedom, greater clarity, and increased profits. I want to increase my profits. I think we all do. But at the same time, we also want to feel emotionally satisfied by our experience. Without further ado, let me welcome Reverend Tina Brinkley Potts.
Good morning.
Good morning, Reverend Tina. Satnam, I'm so happy to have you again on the show.
Thank you again for having me. I love coming to speak with you. I think it's always, it's been a great time each time. So thank you again for having me. I'm enjoying being
Yes,
here.
thank you, Reverend. Also want to thank you because you've been so amazing with the Happy, Healthy, Whole Summit. I think it's just very fantastic. So I want to give you a round of applause for it. And doing the campaign on Not My Grandmother's Religion. And, I feel so touched that you actually talked about the LGBTQIA and the programmings that we've had in the past. I got so much value from your post, especially I didn't know that particular time in history, it was part of trying to control the masses, where you talked about a particular text in the Bible where it was used to control people. And honestly, for me, as an LGBTQIA, while we're talking about balancing love and at the same time, we're talking about the practical value of money. It's so important for me to have this discussion with you and Dr. Tracy because I know that as we have this discussion, it's just so important because so many of the things that I felt limited to doing, actually, I didn't even realize that I was being blocked by a lot of those cultural upbringing. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. It's funny because when I decided to further my studies formally, well, before then, as I was just doing things on my own, one of the things I wanted to know was what was really true. And so I stopped taking everybody's word for it, and I started going back through like all kinds of religions, all kinds of texts, and where did these texts come from? And so the post you're talking about in particular, I was talking about the King James version of the Bible, and the things that King James was going through as he commissioned the Bible being rewritten. And so when you look at the scholars who have gone back from so many different varieties, so many different times have gone back and looked at that Bible and the reasons behind. He had a lot of political motivation for a lot of the things that he said. So there was very loose translations that was applied, and things that were absolutely untrue that was put in the Bible in order to control the people and for more political gain. So
Thank you for sharing that, Reverend Tina. And I was actually touched when you said, I'm not even LGBTQ, I'm not part of it, but it's just so important to me to know that I'm doing something for someone who's feeling oppressed. And it does matter a lot to me. And I'm very sure that those who were able to read your post also felt liberated and comforted by what you just said, because so much of the narrative that has been going around for decades, for centuries, has been holding us back, and a lot of the LGBTQ people don't even know about it. So that's why I'm go ahead, please.
yes, I had relatives. I had people who um, did not like what I wrote. And, it's okay. It's quite all right. But until we're willing to embrace and hear other versions of so-called truth, then we really won't have an understanding, because we have been spoon-fed with different things that just are not right. And I just couldn't stand for it. And so it was when you shared my post, somebody who I knew literally wrote something on the post that I just, that I didn't agree with. And I really needed to speak up. I don't think that we get to be quiet right now. I know what it's like to be oppressed as a Black woman. Two separate ways of oppression. Women are oppressed. Black people typically can be oppressed, right? So if I don't want to be oppressed, why should I stand around and watch somebody else be oppressed too? And so that's how I felt when I spoke up.
Yeah, thank you so much. And honestly, it feels so good that you did that. I'm not sure how other people actually took it, but I also know for myself that when I decided to become an ordained minister of metaphysics, I knew then that it was going to take some effort, and I know that there are going to be some ideas that may not be popular, but I was also concerned that I had to stand by principles that I believe are important for me to stand by, because there are LGBTQ people who are younger than me. In fact, there are some who are even older than me, and they still feel that they're in some form of prison. In fact, last week during Valentine's Day, and I have to address this, my client who's gay, and I asked permission from him to share this, he can't even get his inheritance because his family thinks that he doesn't deserve it because he's gay. So you see, all these things are just going to perpetrate in the collective if we don't actually address certain issues, even if certain views may not be popular for the collective. And that's why I'm telling everyone how practical metaphysics is, because you're probably overlooking these topics that Reverend Tina and I are discussing, but so much of what can actually change the trajectory of your life. That includes your money, that includes the kind of satisfaction, your inner peace, and the joy that you feel in your life, in the different aspects of your life, whether it's working out fine or it's not working out fine, or you want to take it to the next level. You have to know that certain things can actually block you or can actually help you expand and grow. So thank you for that, Reverend Tina. And that was really beautiful. And I'm happy to share as well. I think we really have to look after each other, because this morning, I also had Dr. Anita and her grandkids guest on my other show, Perspective.
Mhm.
And at the moment, we're building a school in Africa.
Mm.
So, I also feel a big sense of devotion to the Black people, because a lot of my friends in the International Metaphysical Ministry, all these made me feel welcome, supported, and cared for. And that's why, like what you said, nobody wants to feel oppressed. And at the same time, I also want to move issues forward. So for me and Dr. Anita, I think one of the best ways to do that is to support causes that will move education forward, especially for people who have little opportunity to do so. So,
I love that. I love that so much. And I think that was one of the reasons why, um, at my spiritual center, Happy, Healthy, Whole, and Rich, we decided to do the Not My Grandmother's Religion Summit, because every speaker there talked about a different way that religion was actually used to oppress them. And it was funny, that wasn't the question I asked when I asked everybody to participate. When I asked them to participate, the only question I asked was, what was something in your religion as you were growing up that is not true right now? And so everyone had a different version of a way that religion was twisted to control them.
mm,
I can tell you over 200 people have registered and watched the
wow.
summit, and
Wow.
it continues to go. New people are signing up almost every day, and
Mm,
the beautiful part is that we're now getting back to the core of what God truly stands for, right? Like,
mm,
the biggest thing is we say that God is really about unconditional love. And if that's the truth, then why are we constantly trying to make ways where we have a system of hierarchy that supposedly makes you better than me or me better than you?
yeah. Yeah.
So I just felt like I loved being able to the messages that we got from those from people watching the summit was just amazing.
Yeah.
The healing that happened, and that's where really what we wanted to do. We wanted to begin a process of healing and reconciliation, because right now, there are so many people who are carrying the shame, the guilt, the of all of these things, and not and it being in the background, not necessarily in your face every day, but it's something that they just haven't released, and it's really
Mhm.
preventing them from living the full expansion that God actually has for them.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. Because when people talk about expansion, the concept of expanded good, which Dr. Catherine Bonder has been talking a lot, and which you and Dr. Tracy and I will discuss more about, I'm very sure that a lot of people will be surprised at the concepts that we're talking about, because people are so accustomed to their former good. So it's so difficult for people to comprehend the concepts of new good and expanded good. And we know that Dr. Catherine Ponder talks about them a lot. So anyway, for our viewers, I'm so excited because another guest of ours is actually a colleague of mine in University of Metaphysics, and she has a vast experience when it comes to prosperity, especially how do you manifest prosperity from the spiritual aspect down to the material level, which you can actually use. So let me introduce to you Reverend Dr. Tracy, who's a Doctor of Divinity, ordained minister, spiritual coach, and Reiki master teacher. And she's actually been doing spiritual work with clients for over 25 years. And the goal in every part of her ministry is to help others connect to their own unique expression of spirituality. And the foundation of her approach is to help her clients connect with their true selves. And when she does this, magic happens in their lives. So one of the things that she believes in is that all children come from the same God and are all expressions of spirituality, valid and beautiful. So, without further ado, let me call on Reverend Dr. Tracy.
Good morning.
Satnam, good
Good
morning.
morning. Yes, yes. Hello, ladies.
Good morning.
Yes,
Satnam,
so it's a gorgeous day here. I'm in Canada. I'm just north of Toronto in Ontario, and it's just a beautiful day. It's really cold, tons of snow, but the way the sunrise is coming up. So thank you for getting me up this time of day. Because it's
yeah,
gorgeous. Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah,
as
it
you were
is.
saying, all of us need to remember, and I mean, Catherine Ponder talks about it so extensively in her books, is that we are all children of God. We are all the children of a rich father, rich mother. And all we need to do to tap into that is to ask, but we do need to ask. And I think that that is such a huge area where I see everybody falling down, because that's kind of the missing piece, right? You have to say, Father, I need this, or Father, I don't know what I need right now, but you know, so please show me the way, guide me to what I need to do. And in my dissertation, excuse me, scientifically, when they have followed prayer to see scientifically if it works, if it changes things. There's been many experiments for probably 80 years now. Scientists have tried to find that God particle, right? And all that they can
Mm-hmm,
find is the fact that it has to be a thy will be done prayer.
mm-hmm,
That's it. So I find that, and I've seen a lot of clients recently, because of such a stressful life that we're living right now with the pandemic, they're coming to the point where they're giving a God, I don't know what's happening. I don't know how to deal with it. I'm so scared. I just need to get me and my family through this. Please show me what I need to do, and I will follow. And those kind of prayers are the people that are having breakthroughs and great things are happening, because the world is changing. And that means that there's a lot of, and as you were saying, money is very important. We need money to survive. This is a
yeah,
new world where there are different ways of making money. And I know many entrepreneurs that are doing amazingly well right now. Just because it's not the old way of doing things doesn't mean that there's not gold in the air. As Catherine
yeah,
Ponder says, right? There's gold dust in the air
Gold
all the
dust in
time.
the air.
All the
yeah.
time. You just have to ask for it, right?
There's gold
So,
dust
Thank
in
you
the
for
air. Yeah.
sharing that,
yeah.
Reverend Dr. Tracy and Reverend Tina. I just have to share this with both of you. A lot of our viewers are still not familiar with Dr. Catherine Ponder,
Hmm.
although for my circle, because I talk about her a lot, then for my circle, they know about her. But
Sure.
please tell me more about Dr. Catherine Ponder and how you encountered Dr. Catherine
Sure,
Ponder's
sure.
material.
So one of the things that's interesting, my dad was an executive with a corporation, and one of the things that they did, and this was when I was a little child, was get them into doing uh, reading books like Think and Grow Rich, Norman Vincent Peale, Catherine Ponder, all the different books that are about manifesting wealth, because they wanted their guys to get out there and make money, right? And they knew that this is the way you do it. And I think back in the 60s, they were a lot less shy about using God in just day-to-day talk. Like I think from the 60s to now, we've gotten very secular, and so
Mhm.
people are all like, "Ooh, what are you talking about? Why would you talk about money and God in the same?" And it's like, because that's where the money comes from, is the big daddy in the sky, right? He's got the big wally. He opens that big wally and lets that money out. You have to ask him for it, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's fun. It's a game, right? Like you have to. The other amazing writer that, if you went Norman Vincent Peale, Catherine Ponder, some of the Florence Scovel Shinn is an amazing writer, and she's fantastic. And the way that she talks about the fact is that we have to get excited about this. It's not a static thing where we just sit like a lump and hope that things are going to happen, right? Like I was just reading her book yesterday, because I try to do a little bit of reading in that book every day. And she was talking about a woman that wanted to manifest. She wanted to be rich, and she said, "Well, what are you doing about it?" She's asking this client, "What are you doing about it?" And she said, "Well, I keep getting job offers, but I like to lay in bed and read Vogue magazine until about noon, so I'm not taking these job offers." And Florence Scovel Shinn's like, it doesn't work like that. It's like when you ask for money, you have to stand up and do what you're being sent to do, right? And you never know what it might be. A lot of the time, it's usually something really crazy and different, and you have to change your life. But once you go down that path, that's when it starts to unfold for you. So when you ask for God to show you how to make money, you have to be prepared to march and follow those marching orders, right? It's not just
Yeah.
lay in bed and read Vogue every day till noon and it just
Yeah.
falls in your lap, right?
Thank you for
That's
sharing
the
that,
other thing.
Dr. Tracy.
Yeah,
And it's amazing because you talked about the transformation that's actually going to happen after you pray. And the transformation aspect that's happening from the inside out is the part where most people don't want to participate in.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, if you pray to God to please God, and I mean, this is the way I pray because it's the only thing that's ever worked for me my whole life is, please God, show me what you want me to do because I have no idea what's happening here. Like a lot of the time, it's just like you're like, people are acting just off the wall, right? And if you pray that way and wait for the message to come in, he will never steer you wrong. He is always faithful. He will show you the way to go and it will help you. But a lot of the time you're going to be in a little bit of a wilderness situation, and Catherine Ponder talks about that a lot, because that is that pillar of faith that everything rests upon. And if you can't put yourself into that headspace where you're resting on the pillar of faith, you can pray till you're blue in the face, but these things aren't going to manifest because there's a certain energy, right? That faith, there's an electricity that it gives off, and that's what pushes you forward into manifesting your dreams, but also making money, as we said too, right? Bring it right down
Yeah.
to everybody needs money to live.
Yeah.
Catherine Ponder was really great. The principle behind everything is alignment with God, the oneness with God.
Exactly.
And then she breaks it down to the different pillars. You got to think it, speak it, act it. Like, and most people don't understand that they're not aligned. while their thoughts are one way, sometimes their what they're saying out of their mouth is another way,
Yes.
and what they're doing is a complete another way. And what Dr. Tracy said, I love so much when she was talking about giving up control. You know, she has a picture behind her head right now, right? And a lot of ways that I explain it to my clients is I ask them, who's actually on the wall right now? Who are you literally putting in the place where God should be? So for instance, a lot of times what we're doing is we're putting the pandemic where God should be.
Mhm.
We're putting
Yeah.
the money where God should be. We're putting the person where God should be. We're allowing that thing to have control over our emotions, our words, our thoughts, our everything. And if we just go, as Dr. Tracy said, thy will be done,
Always.
now you've just given it back to where it belongs. And then all things can come. But most people don't realize it was already done, and you took your focus off of it because you gave it more control of your life. So the transformation has already happened. It's just waiting for you to line up with it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you for sharing that, Reverend Tina and Reverend Dr. Tracy. It's such a beautiful thing that we're discussing right now. And before we forget, can we please share our video from Practical Magic to our personal page so that people who are going to ask about the power of prayer, uh, especially talking about God in practical ways, they can just ask us questions.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love this. I love this discussion. I was just having
I love that you read Florence Scovel's Shin too, like, and that you said you read a little bit every day. I'm the
Yeah,
same way.
exactly. You know what you have to do? You have to have it by your little workout area. So I do my workout and then I have the book, and that's the way I finish my workout. I have to read a few pages of it. And then that way it's all done at the same time.
So you have a physical copy.
Yes, oh, always. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking for some of the earlier editions. So I've been looking on like different places like eBay and this, that, and the other. So until then, I'm using my Kindle. But
Sure.
yeah, I love.
Yeah, I do too.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I love this discussion, and it's just so amazing. I love that we're talking about being able to surrender the part where you're not really sure about what you're going to do, and at the same time allowing the transformation. And I want to ask you now, Reverend Tina, Dr. Tracy, because you talked about putting the faith into the headspace as something that's actually a logical step, bringing faith into the practice. And most people think that faith is just a word that's nice to hear. People normally don't think that faith is a form of power. You can apply intensity on it. You can apply 10% faith. You can make it 50%. You can even make it 100% if you want it. But most people are clueless that faith is actually something that you can use on top of the situation. Because, like what Reverend Tina mentioned earlier, most people put the pandemic, that person, that situation in the place of God. So, what
Mhm.
can you say about it?
Oh, you want me to go first, or
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
faith is active?
Mhm.
It is an active faith. And I love what Dr. Tracy was saying because I wholeheartedly agree. And one of the things the way that she phrased it, and when she was talking about that there's always the guidance in every single moment.
Yeah,
There's
always.
always the guidance. But we aren't conditioning ourselves to hear that guidance because we allow all of the other words to be dominant. So let's say if somebody has been constantly telling you that this is the version you should live, but your heart is pulling you in a whole nother direction and you know it. We've been waiting for a person on the physical to validate our choice instead of understanding that God is calling you to something.
That's right.
and you aren't listening. You have the steering in your heart, your mind, and your soul, but you're not listening. When you begin to take those baby steps, and it doesn't have to be a quantum leap, right? That you just change everything in your life all at once. But if you start listening and saying, okay, I feel this, so I'm going to do this one thing, the next thing will always be revealed. But the step is always right in front of you. And a lot of times it's funny because people will say, I don't know my purpose, or I don't know what to do. And I go, yes, you do. And literally when they start talking, they're telling me somebody else said, well, they told me I had to go to school. And I said, okay, I understand that, but let's put that aside for a minute. And then I keep saying, let's put that aside for a minute, because what you'll watch and notice is that all these different versions will come out that were not God. It was someone else speaking to them saying that this is what you're allowed to have. This is what you're allowed to do. And once you get them past that part, then they start going, well, I always wanted to blank.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you talked about it, because even in the past, when I didn't know what was blocking me, because I didn't even know that certain ideas can actually block my good from coming into fruition, a lot of the ideas that held me back. For example, I thought that when I had a relationship about 10 years ago with someone, and I was thinking that that's what, because we've been together for so long, of course, naturally, you were so depressed after you broke up. But because I became enlightened and then I started studying metaphysics, you now realize that the breakup was actually bringing both of you your greater good, and that you just have blessing and gratitude for you coming together for that particular time. But now you're more open to the idea of welcoming someone new. And this is the
Sure.
reason why we're bringing this up, because here in the Philippines, a lot of people still think that what's happening in your relationship is different from what's happening in your wealth area or your career area. They think you're actually
Yeah.
compartmentalizing them. But in truth, they're actually just one wave of energy. And if you understand what Reverend Tina was saying earlier, if you understand that all you have to do is to align with source energy, with God energy, a lot of the things that you're trying to juggle one by one, it's actually going to work out if you just know that God's power and presence is actually within you and is everywhere present around you. And it has practical value. So I'm sure, Reverend Dr. Tracy, we talked about this in Canada, especially. I know that your ministry, you also have a lot of LGBTQ people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yep.
do they also have the same reservations about manifesting career success and money success?
I don't think so. I have a lot of friends that are gay, always have. Trans, it's just been my way. I don't think that I don't know, maybe I just attract more spiritual people as my friends. All of
Wow.
us have always been kind of, it's all one, right? One of the things that I like to teach people when they come to me and they're kind of drowning in whatever way is getting them to write a letter to
Mm,
to God and their guardian angels and
mm,
say exactly what's going on. Say, God, I don't know what's going on. This is what I need. I want somebody, a soulmate, somebody to love me. I want, enough money so that I'm comfortable and then I can get a puppy dog and talk about it and say, I'm not feeling actualized and this is what I need to grow in my life. Like lay it down and then say, Thy will be done. Once again, just give it to God and say, please help me here. And you would be shocked the stuff that happens and not long. Like I had somebody do one recently and 10 days later, the shocking things that happened and just shook their lives up. And Dr. Masters talks about it in the curriculum at the IMM, is that he says if you're feeling stuck and things aren't good, sometimes you have to really shake it up. He calls it jar it up. And what that means is take in a jar, just and then bang. And all the different ways of having to do just the basic things. Like maybe you've moved, maybe you've taken a new job. There's something very different that you have to do everything different, like the way you pick up your coffee or the way that you make your coffee. Just the most mundane things. Science now knows that that grows new neural pathways for you. And as you do that, you're keeping sharp. You're looking forward. And as you were saying, you were talking about, a lost love and things like that. And, some people call me cold because I do not look in the rearview mirror that way. I do not look back because I'm not going that way. I move forward. And I think that it's a real testament to faith and feeling that God's got your back to be able to live that way. And I think as we move forward in our spirituality, you're exactly right. We look at that was a nice person in our life for a time to spend time with, but they weren't our ultimate destiny. They were, part of the journey. And people can mistake that for being cold. And I just say that's a judgment and go, right? But it's like, it just makes life so much more enjoyable, so much more free to be able to just say, to embrace everything that's happened and use it to the good. And Catherine Ponder talks about that a lot too. Like, you must use these things for your good. Nothing is a mistake. It's a correction. It's just a correction. It's no big deal. All of us make bonehead decisions. We're just human, right?
Like apparently everybody wants to look silly and foolish,
Okay.
That's another thing.
Okay.
You can
Let me know if that works out for you, right? All of us trip on our you-know-whats, as they call it.
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right?
You can bring that right into your everyday. Everything Dr. Tracy is saying, like, you don't have to leave a relationship to make it new.
Exactly.
I can't remember whether it was Dr. Catherine Ponder or Florence Scovel, but one of their affirmations is, "Behold, I make all things new."
That's right.
You can make all things new right here, right now. So even if your relationship is feeling stale, you can just come with new energy.
That's right.
As Dr. Tracy was saying, creating neural pathways, different neural pathways. I'm learning to brush my teeth with my left hand.
Exactly. Just stuff like that they know keeps you sharp. It's very good.
Right? Yeah. Simple. So that when you break up the mundane, you create a new neural pathway. Simple.
That's right.
Behold, we make all things new.
That's right. So once again, we're talking about God and science working hand in hand, because God made the scientists. I know that there's people that get their knickers in a knot about that. And it's like, where do you think we come from, right?
So anyway, I'm having such a great time right now, but I know you have to pause for a commercial. So we'll be back and we'll talk more about God and science working together.
Awesome.
We'll be back shortly. This is Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, Manila.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I'm a king of rock, there is none higher. Sucker MCs should call me sire. To burn my kingdom, you must choose fire. I won't stop rocking till I retire. Now we rock the party and come correct. All sets are on time and rhyme connect.
Now back to Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, Manila.
Satnam, everyone. I am Reverend Ridge, and I'm your host for Practical Magic, where we talk about science, spirituality, and the practical value of metaphysics. So today I have Reverend Dr. Tracy and Reverend Tina Brinkley Potts, and we're talking about God and science and how God and science are actually working together to bring us our greater good, especially these days when there's so much scarcity consciousness that's lurking around, and we want to know what we can actually do with this type of situation. So back to you, Dr. Tracy.
Hey. Okay,
Yes.
so how can we tap into it? What I was just talking about is actually an amazing exercise, and that's writing a letter
Hmm.
to God and the angels, okay? Because we all, I mean, we believe in God. We just know that God exists. We have a personal relationship with God as ministers. Now, some people think that that is just for ministers and people that are ordained, but it's not. Everybody
Hmm.
has a personal relationship with God.
Yeah.
Um, there is no middleman. So, a lot of what I try to do is get people in contact with God so that they can get that information from God directly instead of, okay, what do I do? This way we're going to have God talking to us and telling us exactly what we need to do. And a great way to do it is to write a letter. And what I do with it with clients, people a lot of the time come to me and they're in such terrible, dire straits right now. And it's not just from the world situation, it's from just the constant negativity that's been going on as well. A lot of people have been having a hard time with it. So what I tell them to do is get up, get some time, get a blank piece of paper, write a letter to God and your guardian angels, because we all have them, and say exactly what you need. What do you need to be happy? What do you need? We're all children of God. We're all the children of a rich father. We need to ask that rich father for our divine inheritance and our material inheritance. And that's what you put down in your letter. So, what do you need to be happy? What do you need to have? Prosperity for your family, health for your family and yourself. Whatever you want to say to God, it's between you and God. I like to fold it up and put it into a Bible beside a lot of the time,
Yeah.
like Psalm 90, amazing psalm for overcoming hard conditions. That's another
Hmm.
prosperity thing that you can do. um, Psalm 91, when you just recite it out loud, just read it off of your Bible or your device,
Hmm.
it breaks up hard conditions. It gets you so that you're connected to God, and you'll get that good information so that you can make good choices, good decisions. Because you always know when you're making the wrong decision. You can feel it here. And that's what we're trying to get out of, that mentality that it's all ego. We have to figure out what to do just with our minds. That's not true. So that if we get that
Yeah.
connection to God, we'll get that information and the moves that we need to make. And we'll find that it's just so much easier, so much more calm. And
Yeah.
like I said, when people write those letters, sometimes the most shocking, and you have to be ready for some shocking stuff to happen too. Sometimes it's really dramatic.
Yes.
Um, very
Yes.
much so. Like I've had clients where they've had, where they thought they were going to have a divorce, and this thing with Kim Kardashian and Kanye
Yeah.
West, just to bring
Yeah.
up divorce. He's a bipolar man and he needs to be on his medication. She is somebody that is has tried to have him there, right? Tried to have him
Hmm.
healthy, and then she got to the point where you have to worry about yourself. And I had a
Yeah.
client, and she wouldn't have a problem with me talking about this, and she just got to the point in the marriage where she couldn't deal with the bipolar anymore, and wrote this letter to God, and within a couple weeks he ended up doing something that got him taken to the hospital, diagnosed, medicated, and they're happily married. And this is like 10 years later. So
Hmm.
this happens in a very dramatic way sometimes.
Yeah.
You just put it
Yeah.
out there and hope that it can happen to you. But if you write these letters, if you every morning take it to God and pray, these beautiful divine miracles will happen in your life. They will. I've seen them time and again. It's just being open to it and asking for it. That's where a lot of people fall down, is they don't ask for it. I mean, it says in the Bible, I know, God speaking to the people, I know what you have need of before you ask, but you must
Yes.
ask. right?
Yes.
And so
Thank you for
many of us
sharing
don't know
that.
how to ask for ourselves. So,
Yes, Dr. Tracy. And
mhm,
Michael, please have Reverend Tina back on board, please.
there
Thank
she
you.
is.
Awesome. I thought we lost you there, but I'm happy you're back. So anyway, we're talking about the power of asking, and it's so important because aside from you mentioning about the psalm, I also read
Mhm.
a book by Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen. It's called The Aladdin's Lamp, and both of them were talking about the power of asking. And so much programming, negativity, and limitation has been passed on to all of us for many generations because we feel that we're such small people. We have less dignity if we ask for the things that we want. And what is the best way exactly to ask for the things that we want, Dr. Tracy? And Tina, you might have some things to add.
The best way to ask, I think there's a lot of different ways to do it. I think that it's essentially making that contact with the divine, whatever that means to you. Some people do it in meditation, some people do it in prayer. I like to do it like even more practical things like writing a letter,
Mm-hmm.
prayer, of course, every
Mm-hmm.
morning. I think it's just an ongoing dialogue with God, whatever you perceive God to be or divinity. I think that once you open up that channel, then you are allowed to have that divine guidance come down to you. And
Mm-hmm.
this is when the rubber meets the road, and then you can make things happen. But you got to move, right? When God tells you to move, you got to move. You can't sit there and read Vogue magazine till noon, right?
Yeah,
So I think it's a bunch of things together. I think there's no magic recipe. I think that it's all the things together.
yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that, Dr.
and
Tracy.
and
And
never get discouraged if it doesn't happen. Keep trying things. A lot of the time I've seen amazing things and shocking things happen first try. Like I said with that letter, it's the bomb. If anybody wants to try it, please. It's amazing. But it's like sometimes nothing will happen for a while. It could be years, and eventually, just through sheer persistence, but probably course correction too, because as you're talking to God, as you're praying, you're going to get that divine guidance and slowly change your life to the way that it should be for your prosperity, for your happiness, right? A lot of us are in worn out situations, and that's always takes a shakeup. So like I said, just ask for help, but stand back and Jesus take the wheel, because you just don't know, right? You don't know how it's going to look.
yeah,
And we
you
don't get
know,
to choose. We don't get to choose how it's going to look, We don't.
Th- thank you for sharing that, Dr. Tracy. And Tina, I trust it's okay if I share a bit. It was honestly when I was reading Dr. Catherine Ponder's materials for a time, there was a time for me to actually embody the rest of the principles, especially like what you mentioned about the Vogue magazine. Part of me was actually guilty of doing that in my own way because,
Sure. We all
you
are.
know, a lot of us we pray for things and most of us we want it to be the exact same thing that we want. We never leave room for something better, especially when people found out about the law of attraction and thinking things through. So when certain things are not in alignment with the things that you've been thinking about, it's so easy for you to shrug them off and then say that's not the one that I'm asking for. But over the years that I've gotten accustomed to seeing things actually move around, then I realized that there's really this value for learning how to open up your heart and your mind, that something better is actually on the way. So for you, Reverend Tina, I'm sure you have a lot of asking techniques that you can also help us with.
Sure. So I want to get away from, I want to talk a little bit about, let's put the words aside for a minute. So whether it's your thoughts or the words that are coming out of your mouth, let's just put them aside for a minute, because we all have been really great at playing lip service to stuff, right?
Mhm.
So I want to focus more on how you feel. And I want to focus more on making sure that that part is actually in alignment, because most of the time it's not. And so when you're stuck, and it feels like nothing's moving. Most of the time, you've been calling something into your life with your words and your thoughts, but what you actually feel is the exact opposite. You might be asking for that new love in your life, but you actually in your gut do not feel it's going to happen, and your gut is balled in knots. And a lot of times, and rightly so, because in education, a lot of time we've been taught 5 senses. There are more than the 5 senses. First off, you have your sense of imagination and you have your sense of feeling. And so if you really, one of the best things I think people can learn is about vibration and understanding the emotional scale, because there are so many people, and this is one of the reasons why, especially in the US, we've had this wave of, everyone needs to be fully medicated and everything, is because we haven't been taught to own our own emotions, right? So a lot of times is we can look like everything is so together and we can say, I'm fine. I mean, how many women do you guys know that will go, I'm fine, but inside, she's ready to fall apart because she's been taught to do that. She's been taught to say, I'm okay, even though she's not okay. And because we don't honor our own feelings, because that's where God is really speaking to us through our emotions, saying, I'm here, but you're not letting me in. I'm here, so when you're down in those lower emotions, the guilt, shame, frustration, anything below, I just feel good, you're really holding on to something or believing something different than what God has for you. And when you begin to take that ownership yourself, instead of he's holding me back, he doesn't want me, this person won't give me the job. When you stop doing that and you start going, wait a minute, God is with me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, even in this. And if I begin to own my feelings in this, I'm going to watch God move. So I'm going to stand back and watch God move. But I'm not going to do it with just my words. I'm also going to do it with my full being. I can imagine the good that God has for me. I can feel the good that God has for me. Like, those two things are the most underutilized senses that we have. Like, those two things are very real, but we've taught taste, right? Touch, sight, but imagination and your emotional body is very, very powerful way of connecting to God and getting what you want. Like, and I hate to be about the get, right? Because like, it's so much more than just getting what you want. It's so much more than that. But there's an understanding that you can have that is beyond what anyone can tell you, but you got to find it for yourself.
Yeah, that's amazing, Reverend Tina. And I love that you talked about the power of feelings and emotions, because a lot of us are actually fundamentally disconnected to that aspect of ourselves, which, like you mentioned, it's actually one of the ways in which God is actually trying to communicate better and clearer to all of us. And it's such an important thing to cultivate. So for you, Reverend Tina, how do you actually listen to the guidance of your feelings and your emotions?
I know, I have accepted a fundamental understanding that if I'm not feeling good, I've taken control of something that I need to give over.
Hello?
Right? So if that's the case, then I can just stand right here and right now and go, okay, what am I doing in this moment? And always accepting the responsibility for it. Because I think that's the key to everything. We want it to always be somebody else's fault. instead of going, you know what, I have my own personal relationship with God, and God can turn all of this around right now. So guess what? I'm going to take my attention off of it, and I'm going to own where I am, and how can I get still enough to hear? And while, you know, we all talk about meditation a lot, I like to tell people, if you feel like you can't still your mind enough in meditation, use music, use like talk your way out of it. Figure out where you are right now. I'm feeling like crap. Learn what the emotional scale is, and then just try to move up to the next step. So I feel like crap right now, and I don't want to feel this way. If you just own that, you will begin to change it just from owning it. But most of the time, we don't want to own it. We want to look like I'm perfect, but yet we're feeling like crap. And if you just go, I feel like crap right now, and I don't want to. And I know I have the power to change that in this moment. And then let the next thing come. That changes the game. Dr. Tracy, what do you think about that?
What happened to Reverend Reg?
I don't know, but I guess we should just keep going.
Yeah, let's keep talking. I agree completely. Everything you said, I'm 100% do the same thing. It's all the,
We'll be back shortly. This is Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, Manila.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I'm a king of rock, there is none higher. Sucker MCs should call me sire. To hold my kingdom, you must choose fire. I won't stop rocking till I retire. Now we rock the party, and go correct. All crystal on time, and rhyme connect. Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I'm a king of rock, there is none higher. Sucker MCs should call me sire. To hold my kingdom, you must choose fire. I won't stop rocking till I retire. Now we rock the party, and go correct. All crystal on time, and rhyme connect.
Now back to Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, Manila. We'll be back shortly. This is Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, Manila.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I'm a king of rock, there is none higher. Sucker MCs should call me sire. To hold my kingdom, you must choose fire. I won't stop rocking till I retire. Now we rock the party, and go correct. All crystal on time, and rhyme connect. Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I'm a king of rock, there is none higher. Sucker MCs should call me sire. To hold my kingdom, you must choose fire. I won't stop rocking till I retire. Now we rock the party, and go correct. All crystal on time, and rhyme connect.
Now back to Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, Manila. We'll be back shortly. This is Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, Manila. Now back to Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, Manila.
Satnam, everyone. I am Reverend Reg, and I'm back again for Practical Magic. We just experienced some technical difficulty earlier, and I'm now back with Reverend Dr. Tracy and also Reverend Tina. And I know that Dr. Tracy has to be somewhere since we have a different time zone. She's in
Yeah,
Canada.
yeah, I got to rock and roll here.
Yeah.
Got to go
All
do the
right.
Lord's work.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, Dr. Tracy, in case people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
ReverendDrTracyCox.com. Just go straight to my
Awesome.
website. It's got all the info.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
So
you
nice to have
guys.
you.
So
Nice
nice to
Yeah.
meeting
do
you.
this. Yeah, we'll do it again sometime, right?
Yeah.
There you
Awesome.
go.
Have
Okay,
fun.
have a good one.
Awesome.
Now, is this going to be available to share, or is this
Yeah.
one okay? So
Yeah.
you'll let us have the link.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we'll spread the love.
Awesome. Thank you. All
Okay,
right.
bye
And
guys.
bye.
Bye.
All right. So anyway, we're talking about, love and prayer and manifesting and why they're all actually coming together to serve us, to bring us answered prayers in the most practical sense. Especially, we're talking about how are we going to deal with all this lack and limitation that's happening right now. So, as Reverend Tina was mentioning earlier, about the power of emotions and how we're actually going to use it to serve us, to bring us information, to help us with our decision making process. Uh, so, Reverend Tina, please tell us. Like me, for example, I know that I can get different kinds of emotions. Sometimes I'm even picking up from other people, especially we're both practicing energy work. So, how is it best to make a decision, especially if you're going to allow your emotions or your feelings to actually guide you?
Well, I think one of the best ways is actually make the decision. And then instead of trying to figure out the how, line up with the decision first and let that get solid, because sometimes we haven't made a decision, we just have a suggestion. So think about it. Let's say you say, I'm going to become a minister, I'm going to go to IMM, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you say it but yet you haven't solidified yourself in that decision, it's kind of like, I'm going to do it, but you don't begin any steps. You don't. You're thinking it's impossible for you instead of going, okay, I know that this is what I want to do. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that I can have it, and I know that God has my back. And so, if that is the truth, then I know that I'm going to see the way soon. I don't got to figure it out. But we have to make that decision first. And a lot of times we haven't fully made the decision. So it's
Yeah.
really about embracing it, not the how, just embracing the decision. This is the decision I've made. That's it. That's all. 100%. I'm behind. I'm all into this decision.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that, Reverend Tina. And it's so important because actually the word decide, it comes from the root meaning to cut off yourself from other options or other possibilities. And I love that you mentioned it because so many things of what's causing the push and pull about our capacity to move forward and our unconscious decision to stay in the same place comes from us opening ourselves to so many options.
Mhm.
And I want to relate this to what happened recently because one of my clients talked to me about a relationship issue. And I've always been for, just being honest, even if it means getting someone offended because you found somebody else.
Mhm.
It's a tough decision to make, but honestly for me, since we both know universal principles, Reverend Tina, if I find myself no longer interested with the person I'm going out with, and if I find myself more attracted to somebody else, you know what? I don't wanna set another person's expectation, so high, thinking that you're all faithful and that uh, and then you make them expect a lot of things about why don't you just be honest about the whole thing so that the person can also decide to move forward a different direction and you can also move forward a different direction. It's not an easy decision to make, but it's an important decision to make right away. Especially one time I guested Reverend Adam and we talked about this. And both of us were saying, there's enough collective karma that we're all faced with right now. And you don't want to add the personal karma with
Yeah. Oh, I think you're stuck again.
all right. So
Reverend Reg, are you there? I think you're stuck again. Wow, I love it. I love it. I would take, and again, it's just about a decision. Because if you're in a relationship and you now feel like you're interested in somebody new, um, it's really, you got to be honest about that,
yeah,
right?
I'm sorry about that.
Yep.
It's raining right now in the Philippines. The internet has been participating with the weather.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Everything's all good. You were talking about making a decision. If you are in a relationship, you found somebody new, you're ready to move on, and you got to own it, right? Like you got to own because again, it is about a decision. When you are sitting there and you aren't making the decision, now you're causing suffering. And there's a difference between going through the pain of a breakup and going through the suffering of not being somewhere, and just allowing that to continue to fester. And again, as I was saying to you, there is, we are all co-creators in everything that we bring to us. So even the person, and I know that most people aren't going to want to own this, but even the person that is sitting there, that is the quote unquote innocent party who thinks that this is the person they want, and now that person wants to leave the beast with somebody else. Again, that's where that emotional alignment and the alignment with what you want probably isn't true. You might have been sitting there thinking, oh my God, that person doesn't love me anymore, or this, that, or the other. And so now your feelings are actually bringing that experience to you. So it is so important to really understand your own power, especially if you have strong emotions. You are pulling experiences to yourself with those emotions. So let's say you have a relationship and the person thinks they're ready to leave. If you believe that this is your person, then just love them anyway. Like, I love you. And you don't even have to say the words to them. You could just go, I love you. I don't know what this is about. Literally have this in your prayer. I don't know what this is about, but I know that we're good together. And if you just keep that in your mind's eye and in your experience, all things will start working towards you. But you must have you gotta be aligned. And a lot of times that's the part where we won't own it. Later, after we're beyond the hurt and the pain, we might say, I always felt like he wasn't the one for me. But we won't say it in that moment because we're just so ingrained in the hurt of the moment, instead of owning how we actually might have brought that moment on, even if it's only a little bit, that we actually participated in that event. That's the difference of really beginning to own a metaphysical life and understanding how metaphysics work.
Thank you for sharing that, Reverend Tina. And we'll have more about it after a short commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael, awesome. Hi, Michael. Are you there? So anyway, while Michael, I think, is somewhere right now, he's not able to hear me. I called for a commercial. So we're talking about relationships and how sometimes, you've already utilized everything there is for both of you to learn. And at the same time, you don't feel the same anymore. And we're talking about balancing love and practical matters. So that's another thing. Because if, you're just boyfriends and girlfriends and you don't live together, it's a lot easier to deal with. But if you have a family, of course, that's very different, and it's a lot harder to make the decision, but it's very important. Especially, one of the things that I keep getting asked a lot from my clients is, what do they do in case they've fallen in love with somebody else already and they're no longer interested with their current partner? And I always encourage people to just be honest, because you also don't want the karma of not having been totally honest with someone. It's not like you're just going to get affected in the relationship area, but all the hard work that you put into your career, it's also going to get affected. And I'm sure that Reverend Tina can actually talk more about it. Reverend Tina, I always remind people that, even if you think that you got away with it relationship wise, somewhere in another area of your life, there's going to be a rubber band effect. And it may not really be a good effect if you're in that kind of if you're vibrating that kind of energy.
Yes, yeah, because again, I think I've said this word probably 1,000 times today, but the alignment of it all. So if you're thinking you got away with it on the external, but yet you're kind of tied in knots in your internal because of the things that you've done, man, that has to come to roost. So when we talk about karma, it is really the things that we're actually projecting out into the world. And if you've decided that you're ready to move on and you're holding someone else into that, something that they don't want to be in, like, think about the fact that you might be preventing that person from actually releasing them to find the person that they truly want to be with. So if you're genuine about your own wants and needs, they can actually find theirs too. So it's the compassion and the humanity of it all.
Yeah, that's amazing, Reverend Tina. And please explain more about it, about the compassion and humanity of it all. Because most people, I think, they're also not thinking that, by letting a relationship go, you're opening new doors for new good to flow both into your lives.
Mhm.
You just have to get your ego out of the way, thinking that you're only the source of that person's happiness and fulfillment.
Right. I can give you a perfect example. I have a client who, someone that I've been having sessions with, and she's married, and she's been married for a long time, and she is no longer committed to that relationship. Right.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so my job is not to judge. My job is to really fully get her aligned with whatever decision she's going to make. And so I like preserving relationships. I believe that that's a really good thing. So if we can find out what's going on at the core of a relationship,
Mhm.
we
Mhm.
might be able to preserve it. Well, the thing that I discovered in this particular situation is that she was never fully into this relationship from the beginning, and neither was he. They really
Mhm.
got married because of the societal pressures, the family pressures to get married, even though they never really were fully a match. He's never been fully committed.
Mhm.
She's never been fully committed. And because of that, during this period of time, he's been actually verbally and mentally abusive. He's never been
Mhm.
physically abusive, but he's been
Mhm.
verbally and mentally abusive because she
Mhm.
wasn't his match. And neither one of them really wanted to be together. But because of everything else that other people have put on them, They continued to go down this path because it was the right thing to do. And so, you know, over the course of the last few months, we've really been exploring what's the truth here. Are you willing to own your truth? And do you think your spouse is willing to own your truth? Are you willing to release him so that he can find his true match and you can find your true match? Are you willing to do that? So I'm never giving the answer, right? I'm never saying you should leave or you should stay or whatever. I'm helping them truly explore what's truly right for them, because that's all it really ever is. And that's been the problem. We've always been telling people what we think our version of their life should be, when it is really their life to co-create with God to figure out for themselves.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that, Reverend Tina. And I also want to add to what Reverend Tina was saying, because, you know, we're talking about balancing love and practical matters. And even if people think that it's not related, your love life, your career, your money, or other areas of your life, they're all interconnected. And, you know, like what Reverend Tina was saying, you want to be fully aligned with a particular decision, because whatever particular decision you have, that you are in full alignment with all the other variables, all the other things that are part and parcel of other areas of your life are actually going to, you know, synergize with it, whatever decision that you're making. That's why it's so important to have that space where you're meditating and finding out, is this working out for me? Is this bringing out the highest and best in me? Am I happy with the setup? Am I making myself happy, or am I dependent on other people for happiness? So many things like that can actually affect the way things are also flowing to you in terms of material resources, especially, you know, I want to share this with everyone, Reverend Tina, because so many people had to adjust about the COVID setup and the different economic lifestyle. But honestly, one of the things that made me easier to adjust with the lockdowns and having to do things online is because I was always self-employed. So when COVID happened, you know, it wasn't as intimidating as it is for some people, because you've always gotten used to, as someone who's self-employed, you're constantly fending for yourself, you're constantly trying to grow yourself and fend for yourself. But apparently for most people, of course, it's a very big adjustment. This is the first time where they're cut off from their usual source of income. And I
Yes.
want to relate that to what Reverend Dina was mentioning earlier about aligning with God and not the condition. That if you align with God as the source, you're going to get provided, especially both of us are readers of Dr. Catherine Ponder's book, something that we want to encourage all of you to read. Reverend Tina, please go ahead and please explain that to our viewers.
You know, I think you explained a lot of it perfectly, Reverend Reg, and I love what you said was, you know, when we stop aligning to the situation and start aligning to God. And so let's give a practical way of doing that for people that are listening. That is gratitude. And let's talk about how to do it, though, because a lot of times people say gratitude and they go, okay, well, what do you mean? So for instance, in that exact example where you're now working from home and you used to go to a job and that doesn't, you know, and you're feeling the loss of it. Instead of feeling the loss of the job or acknowledge it first, you know, I really liked going to work. I really liked going into my office. But you know what? I'm going to be appreciative now that I have a house that has heat. I have I actually have internet that allows us to connect like we're doing right now. So like if you just keep stacking, not in a fake way, just small little things that change the perspective of that thing that you're having a loss for, then you can really start to change the trajectory of it and how you, and your perspective and how you actually feel about it. So just reframe with gratitude. You know what? Even though I can't go to work, I'm really still okay. There are people who are worse off than I am right now, right? Like right here in the United States, we have the situation going on in Texas where so many people have been without power for a long time, and power is now coming back, but the water source, they're having a lot of major issues. And so it's like, well, wait a minute, you know what? I don't have that issue right now. So I'm going to be grateful that I am okay. I'm going to be grateful that even though there's so many things going on, I'm okay in this moment. So I'm going to just hold on to that. I'm not going to make it bigger. I'm not going to try to go any further than that. I'm just going to be grateful for that right now. And that will change the trajectory of your day and what's going on for you.
Yeah, fantastic, Reverend Tina. It's so nice. I got so many nuggets of wisdom from you, like I always do. And I trust that our viewers are also able to take down notes and be able to actually immediately apply them, because the true benefit of the learnings that you're getting from the show is actually in the application. So, anyway, before we end the show, I just want to ask Reverend Tina, is there anything that you have right now where people can connect with you and they can find material that they can freely access? Or if you have a workshop coming up?
Um, of course, I'm always doing workshops when it comes to on the business side. I feel like I'm doing at least a workshop a week about automation right now, and being able to create customer experiences using automation. I'm doing that a lot right now. But as far as my spiritual center and my metaphysical practice, definitely get the link for Not My Grandmother's Religion. That summit, you literally can go through it. You have 10-day access, completely free, right? Completely free. And it will begin to explore these metaphysical principles for you and with you. So you will find resonance in at least one of the people that was in that summit. And of course, Reverend Reg, you were there. And thank you so much for doing it.
Yeah, it was such an amazing experience. And I love how Reverend Tina actually put things together. I love how she's so passionate and very warm about what she's doing, because right now, when we all have to practice social distancing, it's so important for you to feel the warmth of another human being. And in fact, a lot of the things that you mentioned resonated with me. That's why I really took the time to be part of it. So thank you for that. And thank you for Michael for doing an awesome work for our show tonight. And also Reverend Dr. Tracy. I know you had to leave, but we're very grateful for all the stuff that you shared with us. So anyway, Michael, please put the AOB. Hi, Michael. Awesome. All right. And before I ask Reverend Tina questions later, I just want to thank Unity Philippines Benedictine International School for helping out in the beginning of season one, and at the same time, uh, Dr. Anita Caprice, Dr. Diana Viuni, also Jennifer Hill, and next slide, please. Yes, Reverend Tina, I know you have so much to share about the International Metaphysical Ministry. It's where I met you, and I'm so happy that I met you there. Is there anything that you'd like to tell our audience about the ministry and the University of Metaphysics?
Yes, I would like to say that if you've been looking to find a deeper meaning to life, this is the perfect place to do that. And this doesn't mean you have to change your religion either. The great thing about this is there are people from Christianity, Catholics, and who are still practicing that religion, but they knew that there was just something more. So this isn't trying to replace your religion at all. It is a deeper understanding of what you already believe. So if you're looking for a deeper understanding of life, this is a wonderful place to figure that out.
Thank you for that, Reverend Tina. And next one, please. All right. So, Reverend Tina, I personally benefited from the scholarship program. I was a working student when I was taking the bachelor's degree. So, how was it for you?
Oh, absolutely. They are continuing Dr. Master's work and making it very affordable right now for people to go through their programs. And how amazing is that at this particular time, right? Where we're social distancing, where most people could be out of work, that they're making sure that you can do this even if without having to pay a large cost. So I love it.
Yeah, fantastic. And I also want to encourage a lot of Filipino families check the scholarship program. I was so surprised you can pay it in full for $990. My aunt who sent me to school paid thousands of dollars to let me finish college in my first degree. So this is really a treat. And next slide, please. I want to thank Dr. Anita Caprice, Dr. Diana Vihuni, Jennifer Hill, Dr. Cindy Palos, Dr. Yolanda Dux, my brother Anthony Benton Brown, Reverend Adam, Dr. Stephen Cosmina and his wife Danny, Dr. Kathleen Riley, of course, Reverend Tina. You always promote your work in the client attraction systems.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. Next one, please. I also want to send a shout out to Arnel Caranto, my boss in life. And I'm so grateful to him for championing environmental causes for many years now. Reverend Sheila Tillich. So thank you all for tuning in. And, before we end the show, thank you for that, Michael. We can now go back to the old format. And Reverend Tina, I always ask for what's one practical magic that you want to leave with me and the rest of the viewers tonight.
Just take a few moments and bring yourself back to right here and right now. So a lot of times we're thinking of something in the future or we're thinking of something in the past. And if for just a few seconds, when you think about it, if you're watching TV or whatever it is you're doing, just come right back to this present moment and be grateful for whatever's around you. I'm grateful for being right here with you, Reverend Reg. I'm grateful that I have the internet to be able to do this with you. If you just pick whatever you're grateful for in this moment for a few seconds, it will change your life.
Yes, thank you so much for that, Reverend Tina. I always find great value in everything that you share with us in the shows. So, also I want to share with our audience a lot of the things that Reverend Tina and Dr. Tracy mentioned tonight. It has a lot to do with balancing love and practical matters that we're all faced with at the moment. And personally, for me, I love the gratitude that Reverend Tina was saying and following our emotional guidance system when it comes to making decisions. And at the same time, what Reverend Dr. Tracy said, when you're praying for something, you also have to be sensitive enough whether or not God is telling you to move towards a particular direction. And you have to take action so that the prayers will get answered. So you have an intention, God has the answer, but you also need to take the action. So I trust that you all had a great time. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment, even if it's after the show already. And before we end the show, I want to thank V81 Radio, my co-producer Sir Rolly and Sir Charlie, of course, Michael and the rest of the tech team in V81 Radio, our viewers. And before we end the show, let's just end with a unity prayer of protection to send us a powerful blessing for the week. Let's close our eyes and just feel our hearts, and together let's affirm the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is and all is well. Satnam, everyone. Thank you for sharing your beautiful energy with us tonight and have fun.
Consistently delivering the very best in metaphysics here in Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Till next time, only here on V81 Radio, Manila. Tunog Pinoy. Tatak Pinoy. Your all hits, all Pinoy digital radio station in South Manila. This is V81 Radio.
Ito ang paborito ng bawat Pilipino. Basta all hits, all Pinoy. Panalo. Merong kwentong iyakan at tawanan. Kahit nasaan ka man, ito'y